Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with something a little bit different today. If you are following along on either Facebook or Twitter, then you already know about this. But back during the short-lived Dawn of War 2 playthrough that we were doing, I mentioned that I was building a 40k tabletop army based on the Blood Ravens, and I was going to try to incorporate that into the channel in some way. And it seemed like at least a few of you were interested. And so what I decided to end up doing with that is creating a blog so that I could keep the Let's Plays and the 40k tabletop stuff kind of separate. And also because it doesn't really lend itself well to videos, I don't think. Maybe when I have, significant updates, I could show you guys videos. But a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be doing is going to be, taking several days or weeks to work on. So I figured a blog would be the best way to do that, because there might be like step-by-step processes I want to show you guys. For example, converting or painting that would require me to record like 3 or 4 hours over a couple of days and then like chop that down into a video, whereas I could just take pictures and put the pictures up on the blog. So here it is. I'm going to take you guys through what's on there so far. The link, as you might be able to see up at the top, is AstartesGaming.wordpress.com. And so the title is the Blood Ravens Project, because that's exactly what this is. I've got 2 posts up right now, the first being the list. So this is the actual points list for the army, at least that I'm going for now. I decided to go for 1850 because that appears to be the most common game size, at least in the United States, for people. A lot of tournaments are going with like 1850, and so I figured that would be a good place to start. And then as I mentioned here, I'm going to make several different point value lists so that I can kind of take this army in any sized game. This may or may not mean anything to you if you're not super familiar with the tabletop stuff, but it should be entirely battle forged. I am basing it off of the Space Marines Codex, obviously, with Imperial Fist Chapter Tactics. I'm running Pedro as the Warlord with the command squad, then a Demi company led by a chaplain with, the standard TAC Marines, Assault Marines, Devastator Marines, and then an Ironclad Dreadnought, because these guys are super badass. And then we've got a first company task force. I'm running shooty Terminators. I know this probably isn't a great idea, but I had a hard time fitting Assault Terminators into this list, and without like a Land Raider or a drop pod to carry them in, which is even more points, this seemed like a better way to go, so that at least they can protect themselves with some Stormbolter and Assault Cannon fire. We've got Vanguard Vets and then Sternguard Vets. These guys I'm really excited about, especially since Pedro, one of his special abilities is that he confers objective secured on the Stern Guards. So these guys are actually scoring units now. I mean, technically they already were, but now they can steal objectives from other units that aren't objective secured. And as of 7th edition, their specialist ammunition actually does work with combi weapons. So that's pretty cool for, I think, 160 points. That is definitely worthwhile. Probably all combi meltas, so that they can take out, armor and stuff. And then a 10th company task force. In 7th edition, scouts got bumped up to weapon skill and ballistic skill 4 rather than 3. So their stat line is identical to Marines now. They just have a 4+ armor save rather than a 3+. However, if you give them camo cloaks and keep them in cover, they actually get a pretty decent cover save as well. And so I'm running 3 of those with sniper rifles. I may switch this up because I've read that sniper rifles aren't really the best. So I might ditch the sniper rifles and give them teleport homers or something like that. But yeah, so that's my list that I'm shooting for. And then as I mentioned here, I'm going to try for different points values. And then we have characters. So these characters you're all probably familiar with. But it's going to be the main characters from the Dawn of War 2 games. So I'm going to try to get into this list. The first being Captain Davian Thule, who is going to be a counts as Pedro Cantor. So he's going to be my primary warlord with the Power Fist and the Relic Stormbolter. Sergeant Tarkus, probably going to be running him as a... I don't think I want to do just a generic tactical Marine Sergeant. I think I'm going to make him the Stern Guard Sergeant. Just because, like, in the game, for example, you can give him Stern Guard Veteran companions, and then in the later expansions of Dawn of War 2, he becomes the Ancient, and he has Terminator honor. So I feel like he should be one of the veterans. Thaddeus, he's just going to be an Assault Marine Sergeant, so he'll probably be leading this squad. And then with Avidus, same thing, he'll be leading the Devastators. One thing I mentioned is with the Devastator Sergeants, they're normally carrying a standard bolter. Only the regular Devastator Marines get the heavy weapons. So what I might do is model him with like a heavy bolter or something that just counts as a regular bolter, so that he looks like a Devastator. Because that's one thing I don't like, is, you know, the idea of giving him a standard bolter and, you know, he just looks like a regular Marine in a group of heavy weapons guys. So I might do something like that. Then of course there's Cyrus. As of right now, he's probably just going to be a regular Scout Sergeant. Upgrading him to Veteran doesn't really make sense if he's got a sniper rifle, because veterans get higher leadership. Yeah, that's great, but the real advantage to the Veteran Sergeant is that they get a second attack. And so if I'm using him as a ranged only character, he doesn't really benefit from that. The alternative is to bring him as like a counts as Sergeant Tellian, but seeing as I'm running Imperial Fists and not Ultramarines, that would be really difficult to pull off. I would have to do some weird like allying in. It doesn't really make sense. So he'll just be like a sniper Scout Sergeant for now, and then we'll see where that goes. Then we have Aramis, the Force Commander. This is his canon name. I mentioned that during our playthrough. If you read the novels, this is the name that they give him, although the novels and the game disagree on a lot of stuff. Like a lot of stuff. But he, as I mentioned here, is kind of a wild card. It's not really clear what position he held before he joined the 4th Company under Davian Thule. He's a sergeant at that point. We know that much. But whether he was like a tactical or assault sergeant, we don't really know. So I kind of mentioned that here. He could really be many different things. Again, he could be a tactical sergeant or another assault squad sergeant. One thing I also mentioned here is he could be like the first sergeant in the command squad or one of the command squad. So that's something to consider as well. And then finally, I threw in Gabriel Angelos here, who at the end of all the Dawn of War 2 games becomes Chapter Master. So spoiler alert there. Also, in those games, obviously, you find out that the current Chapter Master is a heretic and has been one for a long time. So if I ever run with a Chapter Master, it'll probably be him, because I don't want to bring along a heretical one. Also, the Chapter Master of the Blood Ravens prior to Gabriel is a librarian as well, and so that would be difficult to represent on the tabletop. He would have to be probably like Tigerius or something to really kind of match how strong he should be. And again, that's Ultramarines who get all the characters, but as I mentioned here, he would be ran in like a much higher points list, counting as like Darnath Lysander or something, because Lysander is really tanky in his Terminator armor with a giant thunderhammer, the Fist of Dorn, I believe. So I think that would be a pretty good fit for him. And then there are also a lot of other characters that I'm considering as well. That'll probably be the next post I put up, is a few additional characters to this that aren't like the primary ones everybody thinks of, whether it be from Dawn of War or other things. So this is the blog thus far. I encourage you to check it out, read through this in a little bit more detail, and let me know what you guys think. Again, another post coming fairly soon on some more additional characters, and then I do have a couple of figures partially painted up. The way I'm doing it is I'm painting the legs, the torsos, and possibly the heads, so that I can get in there and do better details without the arms and the weapons in the way. So a lot of the figures I have the legs and the torsos fully painted, but I still need to like prime the arms and the weapons, glue them on, and then paint those. So the figures aren't done, but the painting on the portions that are is more or less complete. And this is only for like 1 or 2 squads. I haven't done the full army by any means. So very soon I'll have some pictures of those for you as well. I actually do have some pictures already, but I'd prefer to have a little bit more for you before I post that. So anyways, this is the blog. Again, check it out. Let me know what you think. Feel free to leave comments below. And thanks for watching.